composition functions. Compositions is all about substituting. Okay? The notation that we're going to use for composition, and remember notation is very big in this unit, is going to look like this. A lot of people call it fog, but what this actually means is F composed of G of X. Okay, F composed of G of X. Okay, we can also write it F of G of X. Sorry, I started doing the mathematical term there. F of G of X. Okay, all of this stuff means the exact same thing. F composed of G of X, or F of G of X. Composed, of course, means we're making something out of something else. That's kind of what composition is all about. So when you're talking about composing F out of G of X, what we want is we want to put X into G, okay, which is already there, and then we want to put G of X into F. That's what we're going to build F with. So, written out this way, X is inside G, G of X is inside F, okay, and that's what we're looking at. Read inside out. X in G, G of X inside F. So, if I'm looking at something like this, where it says find F composed of G of X, okay, that's the same thing as saying F of G of X. So if you think back to the last unit where we looked at stuff such as F of 2, okay, if I had F of X is equal to X squared, and I wanted to find F of 2, well, simple, I just plug a 2 in for X, and I get 2 squared, which is 4. Okay, well, the same sort of thing is happening. Now, instead of just doing a 2 in there, we're actually going to place all of G of X. Okay, well, what is G of X? It's X plus 3. So we're going to take X plus 3, and we are going to substitute that in for X. So instead of X squared, I get X plus 3 squared. Okay, so we take this X out, we put X plus 3 in its place. Just like if I wanted to do F of 2, I would take the X out, I'd put a 2 in its place. 2 squared is 4. Here instead, we're going to do F of G of X, so instead of putting a 2 in, we put all of G of X. Well, what is G of X? X plus 3. So you plug in the X plus 3. Now, of course, from there, it's just a matter of foiling that out. If I FOIL that, I would get X plus 3 times X plus 3, which is X squared, plus 6X plus 9. Okay, so that would be your foiling. So this would be F composed of G of X, X squared plus 6X plus 9. Now, the other direction. Okay, if I want to do G composed of F of X, it's not going to be the same thing. G composed of F of X. So now, G is on the outside, and we're going to plug F of X inside. Okay, so now I'm going to take this X squared, and I'm going to plug it in for the X and G of X. It's a substitution. All of this is about substitution. We're taking an X out and replacing it with something else. So, instead of doing X plus 3, we're going to take this X out and put X squared in its place. So now I've got X squared plus 3. Okay, see the difference? X plus 3 squared, which foils out to this, or X squared plus 3, which doesn't foil at all. It just stays the same. So they are different. G of F and F of X, or G of F of X, sorry, and F of G of X are both different answers. Okay, so we've got two different things happening here. Now, if I want to put a number in it, pardon me, I got the hiccups. If I want to put a number in it, two ways I can go about putting a number in these. And I'm going to have to zoom out for just a second so I can see these at the same time. So I've got F composed of G of 2. Okay, well, if I wanted to find F of 2, I took 2 and I plugged it into the X value, into my F of X. Okay, F of 2 is equal to 2 squared, because F of X is equal to X squared. Well, this is the same sort of idea. If I want F composed of G of 2, well, I go to my F composed of G of X, which we already found to be X squared plus 6X plus 9. Okay, and we found that right here. F composed of G of X, because these two things mean the same, okay, is X squared plus 6X plus 9. So if I want to find F composed of G of 2, I'm just going to replace all my X's with 2's. 2 squared plus 6 times 2 plus 9. So that's going to be 4 plus 12 plus 9, which is 25. Sorry, you can't see that. 4, 2 squared is 4, 6 times 2 is 12, and 9, so 4 plus 12 plus 9 is 25. So, that's one way of going about it, and I'm going to show you g of f of 2 as well using that same method. So we already found that g of f of x is x squared plus 3. Okay, and we found that in the last problem. If you look over to the left, we found that g of f of x is x squared plus 3. So if I want to find g of f of 2, I just plug a 2 in. So 2 squared plus 3, which is plus 3, which is 4 plus 3, which is equal to 7. Okay, so 25 would be my answer for f composed of g of 2, and 7 is my answer for g composed of f of 2. Very clear definition that those two things are not the same thing. Now, there is a different way that you can do this, and it's really kind of a personal preference thing. If I already have my f composed of g of x and my g composed of f of x like I do here, then I tend to use these and then I will plug in the value that they are asking for. If I don't have those already, then my preferred method is usually, and I'm going to do it right here off to the side, just so that you can kind of see. If I wanted to find f composed of g of 2, okay, using those exact same functions where f of x is x squared, let me write it down so we can see it all together, and g of x is x plus 3. I'm just using the same ones we've been using for this first example. Okay, so what this means, we said read inside out. Okay, I told you it's building, it's a composition. I'm making one out of another. So I can take this and plug 2 into g first. If I find g of 2, which would be 2 plus 3 just by plugging a 2 in for x, which is 5. And now take that and plug it into f, because f of g of 2, it's going to be the same thing as f of 5, since we just said that g of 2 is equal to 5. So if I do f of 5 and plug that into my new f value, which f of x is x squared, so we go 5 squared, and we get 25. Okay, same exact answer as we got up here, just a different method. And I'll show you that again in a minute. Alright, so looking at example 2, f of x is equal to the absolute value of x. Okay, and g of x is equal to x minus 2. Find each composition. So f composed of g of x. The big part is knowing which one goes inside, which one am I substituting into the other. It's always right to left. Okay, this is what we mean by reading inside out. So the x goes into g, g of x goes into f. Okay, so if you need to write it out, f of g of x, I prefer this notation just because to me it's easier to see. G of x is easily inside of f. So my g of x is x minus 2. So I'm going to substitute that into f where that x is. So absolute value instead of x, I write x minus 2. Okay, so that would be it. I can't do anything with it, so that would just be my answer. Now this one, g composed of f of x, not the same. Okay, so now f of x is my inside. G composed of f of x. So take my f of x. What is f of x? Square root of x, or absolute value of x. Plug that into g. So instead of this x right here, I'm going to replace it with the absolute value. So I get absolute value of x minus 2. Okay, it's just a substitution. It's just a substitution. I am plugging f into g. So I'm taking my f function and replacing the x's in g with that. Again, nothing I can do, so that would just be my answer there. Okay, now example 3. It's got square roots, but it's the exact same concept. G is my inside, so we're going f of g of x. Okay, so g of x is my inside, so I'm going to take g of x, which is x squared plus 2, and I'm going to substitute it into f. So square root of, instead of x, I put all of g of x, x squared plus 2. Nothing I can do with that. When you go to take your test, do make sure that you make this very clear that your radical line goes all the way across. Otherwise, it's going to look like you didn't know what was happening and that you didn't know what was supposed to be under the radical. So make sure that that square root sign goes all the way across. Okay, I can't simplify that, so that's just my answer. G composed of f of 9. Again, two different ways you can do it. I can either find G composed of f of x first. Okay, if I did that, G composed of f of x, that means f is being plugged into g, so I'm going to go square root of x squared plus 2. Okay, because I took the x that was in g, I'm plugging f of x, I'm taking this and plugging it in here. So I took that x out and replaced it with a square root of x. Okay, so the square root of x squared is just x plus 2. So if I want g composed of f of 9, then I replace the x with a 9. 9 plus 2 is 11. Okay, and this was method 1. Again, doesn't matter which method you choose. It's totally preferential, whichever one you like. Again, if I already have my f of g of x, then I typically would use that. But since I didn't already have g composed of f of x, I would actually do it this way, where I take 9, I plug it into f. Okay, so and you do have to go in the correct order. So these ones first. So 9 into f. So I'm going to go f of 9, which is the square root of 9, which is equal to 3. Okay, and then I take that and I plug it into g. Okay, so f of 9, we can't stop there. That's just f of 9. They want g of f of 9. So now I've got to take my f of 9 value and plug it into g. So g of f of 9 is the same thing as saying g of 3, which is going to be 3 squared plus 2, which is 11. So 11 is my answer on both, okay, as it should be. If you get different answers doing the same thing, then then it's obviously wrong, because it's just two different methods for doing the same thing. This was method 2. Now there is a year turn. I would suggest that you hit that pause button, okay, see what you can do. Make sure that you are understanding this, okay. These are the basics of composition, so you need to understand these very well. It will show up on your test for sure. It's actually quite a bit of it on your test. So make sure you understand these. Rewatch this video 30 times if you need to. Alright, so if you've done that, and hopefully you are coming back, f composed of g of 3. The way that I'm going to do it, since I don't have f of g of x already, I'm just going to start from here. I'm going to go 3 into g. So g of 3 is 3 squared, which is 9. And then I'm going to take that and do f of 9. Plug that into f because we're substituting. Remember I told you it's a double substitution here. 3 into g first, it's compositions. And then we take g of 3 and plug that into f. So f of 9. So that's going to be 2 times 9 plus 5, which is 18 plus 5, which is 23. Now here they don't want an exact value. They want g composed of f of x. They want us to leave the x. So if f of x is 2x plus 5, then I'm going to take that value and plug it in this way. Be very careful. If you got 2x squared plus 5, that means you actually took g and plugged it into f. But they want f plugged into g, right? We're always going to the left. Start on the right and move to the left. So take f of x, plug it into g. So instead of having x squared, we've got 2x plus 5 squared. Okay, I took the x out, I replaced it with the f value. After that, it's just a matter of foiling that thing out, which would be 4x squared plus 20x plus 25, and that would be your final answer there. And that's the basics on composition of functions. Good luck with that. That would help you for 9 through 16 on the homework.